So good morning, everyone. I'm Jay Hardy. I'm the manager of the Domestic and Family Violence Program Design and Delivery team at DCJ. We manage some of the DFV programs, including living violence and the Integrated Domestic and Family Violence Service. I'll be referring to it as IDFVS throughout, which is a mouthful and an acronym, and I apologise. It could do with a better name, so that's part of this process too. We're here to talk about the open tender for 3 locations as part of the expansion of IDFVS in line with the Domestic and Family Violence Emergency Package funding that was released by the New South Wales Government last year. So I might just go back to the slide deck so everyone can see that. Abby, you can see that?
Yep, I can see that.
Yep. Okay, so just some general housekeeping rules. Please keep it on mute. Happy to have cameras off if you like. And we're not taking questions during the session, but they can be put in the chat and will be responded to offline through the tender following the industry briefing session. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the First Nations people of New South Wales and pay our respects to elders past and present. To welcome you all today from whatever lands you're on, the lands of the Aboriginal people who have looked after the waters and the lands of the country time immemorial. I am on the lands of the Awabakal people along the coast, and I grew up on Warramai country a bit further up, which has some beautiful coastal coastlines and a real history of lands that have been used and cared for by Aboriginal people. And I like to talk about when you get to go on a cultural tour on dune bikes there with the Warramai people. It's a really great way to see some of the beautiful country and understand the complex and sophisticated caring and history of Aboriginal people looking after our lands. So our agenda this morning, the director of the Program Delivery and Integration team, Sarah Bradfield, couldn't be here today. She's unwell, so it's just going to be a lot of me talking to you and at you, alongside my colleague Abhishek, who is the Senior Policy and Project Officer, looks after the Integrated Domestic and Family Violence Service Program, and Paul Sunraju from Strategic Finance and Procurement, who's supporting us through the procurement for this program. As I said, any questions will be answered to addendum through Procurement Central, and this recording will be made available on the website as well. Oops, wrong one. So we're just going to have a bit of a history of the IDFVS program. It's only a small program compared to some of our other DFV services, so we have an overview of that. Going through what the tender includes, the response envelopes, how to access Procurement Central, and then a bit of a summary. Sorry, I might just get people to mute if possible.
Sorry. No, that's okay. I'm just giving you a quick call in regards to...
Let me see if I can mute everyone. Actually, Abby, can you click on the menu?
Jay, you just need to unmute
You're
again.
mute, Jay.
Sorry.
There we go. There it is. And it's recorded for everybody. Thanks. As I said, the New South Wales government committed $245 million over 4 years to the DFV emergency funding package back in May. A big part of this crisis response was to support services that respond to women and children leaving domestic violence. And in part, that was expanding SHLV, as we call staying home leaving violence, to statewide coverage, which we've just gone through procurement for that, for additional 13 services, working towards 14 to cover 128 LGAs across the state. We will also be increasing Aboriginal, place-based and culturally responsive DFV service responses, which will be co-designed and delivered by local Aboriginal community-controlled organisations. And this element of the expansion is 6 more IDFVS services across the state. Currently, there are 11 IDFVSs and they're all pretty coastal or metro. So we're really focusing on areas of need and regional and rural locations, which has been based on a lot of mapping work we've done. So what is IDFVS? It's a multi-agency response to prevent the escalation of DV among high-risk groups and communities. So it is a very flexible and intensive case management program. It works to support people to navigate, I guess, the support system that is quite complicated when someone's living in or leaving domestic violence. And the difference in IDFVS is that it can work with the whole of family. So it can work with someone who might still be living within a violent relationship, who's planning to leave, or it can work with young people as clients in their own right, and also with a person who's using violence in terms of referrals into other that's healing or behaviour change programs or drug and alcohol supports as well. So it's a real whole of family approach into increasing family safety. It responds to a gap in the service system by working with women who may still be living with violence. And it's about building the capacity for safety over time and ensuring that it's client-led and based on the network and service system that the service is placed in. And links to therapeutic and support and behaviour change are a key part of this response in the revised kind of program delivery. Just check if I'm not missing anything. So the IDFVS program does take a gendered view of DFV and it draws on a systems theory positioning the program alongside the broader systems response that exists around relevant government and non-government agencies to reduce DV. It is person-centred and it's a trauma-informed case management model with the key aim of promoting victims' choice and safety. Core services are very similar to staying home leaving violence. If you're familiar with that program, in that its key service delivery is case management. It also will deliver case coordination where there's a less intensive or longer term support. Brokerage is available to support case plan goals and safety needs, and there is direct services to children. The education activities relate to either promotion of the service within the sector or how the service is linked into referral points in and out of the service system as well. This tender process is for 3 contracts with an initial contract term of 4 years with the option to extend for an initial 2 years. So it's a good contract and I'm really pleased that we're committing to longer term contracts, which is an element of allows security for a service provider and for recruitment and to sustain and attract, I guess, skilled, qualified staff into the service space. So IDFVS has been a small kind of program sitting alongside a larger one, which is the SHLV, that I think gets a lot of the attention. But I think IDFVS is a really important program because it is really client-based and needs-based and client-led. So we've recently just updated the program specifications following consultation with the sector and peak bodies to ensure that they're the most current good practice, that there's a focus on working with the whole of family, as I spoke about. This is what we've been hearing is needed in the DFE space. And we've really looked at making a more culturally responsive practice where we've had recent kind of reviews around co-design models and understanding what works best in Aboriginal communities and for culturally and linguistically diverse communities as well. And we have heard that Aboriginal families report that they may want to stay together, but they want the violence to stop. So this is a program that can work with the whole of family and in a more culturally safe and relevant way to increase family safety. Oh, there should be a dot point here, sorry. Another change to the service specs is that there's a training matrix to support services to identify their areas of need in a DFE specialist practice. And recent updates to legislation around coercive control, changes to the Domestic Family Violence Act and the New South Wales Government Strategic Plan has been included in the update. So it does focus on priority groups. Primarily, the client is a woman or a person who identifies as a woman who is a victim survivor of domestic and family violence. But as I said, where it's safe and appropriate to do so, can work with the whole of family in that kind of case coordination role. It's case management primarily for women and children, but case coordination, info and referral and support can be for the person using violence as well. Check the notes. Good. Me again. Service locations and funding. For these 3 services that are coming to tender, we will be procuring this for New England, Inverell and Glen Innes LGAs, in the Hunter, Maitland Cessnock LGAs, and in Murrumbidgee, Hilltops and Cootamundra Gundagai LGAs. So an organisation can respond to one or multiple LGAs if they have a physical presence or relevant service footprint in that location. So this is around specialist domestic and family violence supports. So when it says relevant service footprint, it needs to demonstrate that there's work with that community and that LGA around increasing family safety and domestic and family violence work. There was a lot of mapping work recently done to identify areas of high need and unmet demand. Is that correct? And the priority areas, 6 locations that we've selected based on that mapping work. We also recognise that rural and remote areas, especially when you're talking about integrated service delivery, might have a limited sector, and there are particular challenges in service delivery for regional and rural locations. So there is a higher funding allocation as a program now worth $450,000 per annum, which accounts for this complexity and also the complexity of work that we are asking this program area based on the whole of family kind of response. So the tender, which did go live on Friday, has 2 envelopes involved: the qualification envelope, which is your mandatory criteria evaluated as pass and fail, and the technical envelope, which has the criteria which are weighted for a total score of 100%. There are pass-fail criteria in this envelope as well, but 4 weighted criteria which you will respond to demonstrate your capability and capacity to deliver this service. If the respondent scores less than 50% in this, they may be excluded from the tender evaluation. For the weighted criteria, Aboriginal community controlled orgs have the option to do a verbal presentation for the criterions, except for an implementation plan and the budget, which are written submissions to meet the criteria. And then there's compliance criteria, which I think is pretty standard. We can go through that. So this is just a breakdown of those areas. As you can see, mandatory requirements, which are your yes, no, are about the organisation's legal responsibilities and requirements. And the technical envelope is the envelope in which we request that you demonstrate your capacity to deliver the service related to specialist domestic and family violence and working with whole of family. Also, the yes-no questions around understanding the service specification, the program guidelines, agreements with the human service agreement, and policies around DCJ policies around procurement. Let me just catch myself up here. So the key dates for you to note that submissions of questions related to procurement, which have to be submitted through Procurement Central, is by the 29th of April. The tender closes on the 6th of May at 3 p.m. And we will be working towards an outcome of the tender notification and contract negotiation around July. I may be being optimistic in that space. So Abby, I might pass over to you to just talk through some of the practicalities around Procurement Central for services.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Yes, I'll just be going through Procurement Central and a bit of a screenshot of what it looks like for everyone. So the first page there is the tender structure and submissions instructions page. As you can see, there's a few different tabs there that you can look through for the submission. So the main one that might be important to you is the attachments page, where you can see the various attachments that's relevant to this tender. And the other important tab there is the response envelopes page. So that has the qualification and the technical envelopes. So you just click through to those pages and provide your responses there. And just a reminder as well that any submissions lodged outside of Procurement Central will not be considered. So next slide, please. And in terms of accessing the tender itself, so this is what the main dashboard should look like for you. You'll see highlighted sections there where it says RFQs and the pending responses. So that's where you can find the current tender, and the bottom page where it says quick links there is where you'll find the tender as well. So you just click through to those links and you should take you to the relevant page. In terms of posting questions, so this is sort of the formal channel you'd be going through. So again, there's a tab there where it says create message. That option comes up where you can write the message and then send it across to us. And we'll be responding to these messages through the addendum. And that's where the message, where you can see where it says unread, comes up as. Ooh, it's disappeared. There we go. So that's in terms of the communication with suppliers. So whenever there's an addendum that has come up, there should be a message popping up to say that you've got another message, and that's where our response will come through to you from. And in terms of any sort of technical assistance, the numbers are there. So if you run into any issues, that's the help desk numbers there.
Thanks, Abby.
Civic quick one.
Did I skip one there? Yes, I think I'm
Yep.
good.
Just that
Good to
one,
go
yes. Yeah, so just in terms of, again, the main takeaways, main responses will be coming through Procurement Central by the closing date and time, and the website address is there in terms of how you can access all those different links, and the closing date and time is 3 p.m. on 6th of May, so that's on the Tuesday, and the technical contacts are also there, which you could see in the screenshot just before as well. I think that's it.
Great. Thanks, Abby. So I think that's the summary of the three RFX 1, 2, 3, 3, or the three new integrated domestic and family violence services that we are tendering for. It applies to eligible organisations as specified by the mandatory criteria. So you can go through that. Essentially, we are looking for services who have a understanding of and experience working with victim survivors of domestic and family violence or whole of family to increase family safety, to have local providers who have an established service in the area that we're tendering for, in the 3 regions that are specified. All applications have to come through Procurement Central portal once you've registered your account, and they close on the 6th of May. We are trying to identify respondents that best demonstrate capacity and capability to deliver IDFVS across identified regions. I personally am pretty excited about the expansion of this program because I think it does, as I said, based on feedback, cultural responsivity and understanding that there isn't really a clear path out of violence sometimes for a lot of women and children victim survivors, that this is a more kind of inclusive and responsive way of working with people who are experiencing violence. And so returnable schedules must be completed and submitted in Procurement Central by the close date. If an Aboriginal controlled or like to use the verbal submission option for the criterion, that's noted in the response, and then we'll arrange a Teams video conference answers to be presented to the tender evaluation committee, that response. So that will be noted in the responses. Okay, so the IDFV programs mailbox is your go-to for any questions around this, and through Procurement Central asking questions directly about the tender. And I'm your primary contact, it looks like, for that too. So I think that's it. We will be putting the copy of the recording on the website. It also does have the program specifications up there if you'd like to look at the revised and updated IDFVS program specs, which is also part of the tender pack, obviously. And we will be responding, noticing that there's a few questions in the chat there. We will be responding to those as part of the addendum. I'll take those on notice if that's all right. So I think that's it, because I can't really open it up for questions. So I'll thank you for your time, and I really appreciate everybody's interest in delivering this program. And if there's any questions, please follow through with the contact either in the mailbox or through Procurement Central. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks. We might just leave the contacts open for a little bit if you have any questions. Sure.
Good point. I might stop the recording.